part, Chris. Keep it up.
Yeah. Woohoo. Okay. So,
So if you want, I can call a roll call, and then after that, we can start the meeting.
please do.
Okay. Chris Kuramitsu,
Here.
Annalee Andres, Jeffrey Burke,
Here.
Stephen Wong.
Here.
Okay, you may start.
Okay. Welcome everyone to our first Public Art Commission meeting in quite some time. Let's see, what do we do first? I have never done this before.
Vice Chair, this is the planning manager, Matt Chen. So I
Hi,
can guide you to the kind of the agenda process.
great,
the
thank you.
First, not first. The next item is the majority vote of the commission needs to approve the agenda order.
Okay,
So
Madam Chair,
yes,
may. The agenda looks fine. I have two questions for city staff about the agenda. The first is, are there any minutes from previous meetings to be approved? Matt, that's a question for you.
yes, staff hasn't get a chance to review the entire video from the last meeting, which staff recalls back in January, and Margaret was the commission liaison at that time. So staff will prepare commission minutes at the next public art commission meeting.
Next meeting, okay. And the second question that I have is somewhere in the staff liaison communications, will we get a rundown of other projects that are currently in process that we will have to review?
As part of the communication under item number 7, staff will provide the commission the update regarding the commission itself, and also what's going on in the city, whether it be department level, staffing level, or also a citywide related items.
Okay, well, that doesn't sound like we're going to hear exactly what is in the pipeline that is coming through to the commission. So in the future, I would be happy to vote to approve this, but I would expect that in the future, as part of a regular process of this meeting, that we should get a report of everything that is currently in process and that we will eventually be seeing. Do we, Madam Vice Chair, that's what I recommend to you.
yes, that sounds very reasonable, yes. Sorry, we can't hear.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. It would also be, I think, really helpful to also get an update on the projects that we have approved and sent on to the city council at the meetings. I know last time we were together, we recommended to city council 3 particular projects, and it would be very helpful to just get kind of updates on the status of what's happening with various aspects that we send to city council.
Receive. Thank you.
Okay. With those comments noted, should we, do we vote to approve the agenda?
You can call for a vote.
All right, I will call for a vote. All, do we roll call it or all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. It is approved. Okay. And then I guess we so can I ask those 2 kind of comments or additions, addenda to the agenda? With those, can those be added now, or does it have to be something that we talk about in future meetings?
Those items will be part of the future agenda at the next.
Future
meeting.
agenda. Okay. So we will not talk about that today. Okay. Commissioner Wong.
Thank you. You know, if we're talking about adding things to the next meeting's agenda, which I'm surprised is August 24th. And so it appears to be we're meeting quarterly. But I would like to put on that agenda, like who decides the frequency of these meetings, because I believe that we need to meet in order to get done what we need to get done. We need to meet more regularly. So can we agendize that, or is that something that would be discussed today?
Commissioner Wong, as part of the communication from staff at the end, staff, we can discuss the next meeting and the frequency of the meeting, also the exact date and time of next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we move on to public comments?
Now's a good time to ask if there are any members of the public here who would like to speak.
Is there any members of the participants on Zoom have any questions, or if they do, please raise your hands. You see it? No. None at this time.
Okay. And is there, I cannot see, but is there anybody in the room that is, would like to make any public comment?
No public comment cards
Okay,
at this time.
great. Okay, then moving on to the next business item. The Public Art Commission reorganization. The item is to select a chair and a vice chair. So,
I would like to speak.
sure.
I was talking to Commissioner Burke before the meeting and reviewing the proposed work plan for our committee, where public art policy will be a primary topic of our committee. I was encouraging him to consider the role of commissioner as our own policy wonk on the board. I thought he would be particularly well suited for the commissioner role, the chair role for this upcoming year.
So that's a way of nominating me.
I am nominating you officially
Okay.
for this position.
Before I respond to that nomination, let me say that I think the proper thing to do would be to offer the vice chair the opportunity to be the chair first. So I will wait to respond until I hereby nominate Vice Chair Kurmitsu to be the chair. Chris, what you say?
What do I say? Well, that is, thank you very much for that, Commissioner Burke. I would love to see you as the chair, though, because it seems like your kind of dedication and passion for the many, especially the sort of like policy and procedure decisions that we're going to have to make to really kind of set up the structure of the commission, seem to be very much in your wheelhouse. And I think you would be a very excellent, chair. So.
I would, I was going to nominate Chris because I agree with Jeff, is that, it's the natural progression for Chris to, but knowing this now, I will second Jeffrey to be the chair of the commission.
Sure, I would be happy to do it, although I need one of you there with me when I explain this to my wife.
I would be happy to continue as vice chair if that is something that would help you in your, you know,
Well, I
Council
suggest,
situation.
I accept the nomination. I recommend you call for a vote before I change my mind.
excellent. Okay. All in favor for appointing Commissioner Burke as the chair of the Public Art Commission?
Aye.
Aye.
I want it known that I'm abstaining, but I, and our vice chair is, Chris, would you like to stay on as vice chair?
I would be happy to, yes.
I nominate Chris Kuramitsu to be our vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure.
All right, let's get this meeting moving. We've done our reorganization, and thank you very much. I appreciate your vote of confidence, all of you. All right, so staff, we are up to the presentation of the moment.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and congratulations to your new role here.
Congratulations.
And the next item before you is public art development or public art program for a proposed mixed-use development at 1105 to 1115 Mission Street, which commonly known as a Mission Bell mixed-use development. And this entitlement of a mixed-use project was approved by City Council back in 2020, consisting of 36 residential units and 7,394 square feet of commercial area as a mixed-use development. As a conditions of approval from the City Council that public art concept or a public art plan must be approved by this body before the project can be issuance of a building permit. And the applicant has submitted, has worked with a local artist to prepare a public art plan for commission's considerations. And the attachment including the artist's resume, portfolio, as well as the concept prepared by the artist and the project architect, as well as project manager, as well as artists, and I think believes he's available via Zoom, are here available today to answer any questions from the commissioners. And just before staff leaves, the project team also has a PDF showing the author's kind of resume and also other works he has prepared in the past, as well as some rendering to be shared with the commissioners. And this concludes staff's presentations, and staff's ready for any questions. As staff mentioned before, the project team is here available to answer any questions you may have.
Did the project team have a presentation they'd like to make or anything they'd like to say?
How's that? I think I got it. Red button. Okay, great. Well, thank you all for taking the time to come and let us present our project to you all. We're very excited where we are at this stage of the project. Just to give you a little context, and my name is Dwight Bonds. I'm the architect. Our company, Workshop Design, the architect for the project. Sure. Sorry. I've lived here. My wife and I have lived here for 15 years, so we're local here. So to say that we're excited about this project that we can ride our bikes to is an understatement. And then just to we're very excited to introduce you all to Tim Carey, who I'm sure you all are familiar with, who has been commissioned to be the artist for our project for a public art installment on our project. I'll go ahead and does everyone know who Tim Carey is? I have his portfolio here. We can go through some of his amazing work. Can we pull that up for just a quick sec? Should say Tim portfolio. Tim would be here. He lives about 6 blocks that way. He has a head cold tonight, so he's on Zoom and is there for any question and answers that you all might have. We were just while you're pulling this up, my wife and I were introduced to Tim through that movie Holy Frit that was shown at the Rialto that we were so fortunate to get to go see. And also want to introduce my colleague Mike Ascioni, who's here. He's the project manager. He's the one that's doing all the hard work, getting all the approvals and but you know, it was extraordinary what that movie was about. That big glass mural, stained glass piece that he did in Kansas. So initially, when he was up there doing his presentation, he and his colleague Justin, it just came into my mind because I knew we had to come up with some public art. We had to come up with something that was compelling for the project. And you know, our site is right at the top of, as you guys know, Mission Meridian, just a block or two from there, and it's just like this perfect location. Literally, you're having a drink at Mike and Ann's. You're looking right across the corner at our project. So it just yearned for something that was compelling and exciting and interesting, and something that really spoke to all of us here in South Pasadena. And I think that's what Tim wants to do with this art, and if you're familiar with the incredible fused glass process that he has perfected and is working on. It is really exciting to see what he's doing. If you want to go ahead and go through this package real quick, it talks about his background. This is his studio. You can see some of what's really amazing. If you all are familiar, you've all seen those beautiful stained glass windows from the Middle Ages. They're all separate, typically separate little colors that are lead, that are separated. Sometimes they're painted on. What he and that character Narcissus from the movie, this Italian guy that helped perfect this process of fused glass, you're now being able to do sort of watercolors with glass. And it's very dimensional. It's really incredible. And we hope as we get into our project, once, in a year or two, it's going to take a little while to get the building to a point where he can start to do his tests, is that you all will be involved in kind of seeing the process and see the evolution. This is the top image is the giant stained glass window that they did in Kansas, outside of Kansas City, I believe. And there's an excerpt below it that's part of the main character, Jesus' face. You can see that incredible depth of color and richness. This little project is over near Marengo, I think the Marengo and Huntington. And he did this cool little glass sculpture. I think the concept was about the parrots that we have flying around here and here. That was the concept for this little piece. This is the stained glass at the library, which is the Ray Bradbury. I think there's a special room for him, and he did this glass for them. And then this just shows some of his contemporary, just the ability that he's being able to do extraordinary things with glass. And you can just keep scrolling through this. Please, thank you. And then part of course, what we're going to do is figure out how to backlight it. We have some really great ideas, really sustainable ideas, but this piece at night will just be fantastic. So you keep going. These are all just wonderful examples of some of his work that he's been commissioned to do. And then I think that's about it. And then that piece, if you wanted to just stop right there, the little triptych piece is it's actually an exterior glass piece that one of the challenges we're going to have, and we've got some great ideas, is that this is going to be in the public. The whole idea about this public art is that you can walk right up to it and look at it, get a sense for how incredible it is, and try and disseminate what value it brings to you, and what you can get from this piece. But we also want to protect it. So we've got some ideas how to do that, how to balance the the perfection and managing of the beauty of the piece, but also making it safe. Okay, I think that's the last piece. Now if you can go to the proposal, please. So as Matt was saying, our project is about 46,000 square feet all total. And 36 new units. We've got about 7,500 square feet of commercial mixed between the portion of the old historic building that's on our site and then the new building. We've got 2 levels of below grade parking, one level for residential, one level for commercial, and 3 levels of a mix of commercial and residential uses. So on the main corner, the corner of Fairmont and Mission, we've notched the building. You can see here, this is an image that shows kind of what the building can look like with the landscaping, kind of how you can see all the way to the left is the historic building. And these are just a representation of what signage could look like on the building. This was something that we wanted to show our client kind of what the project could look like. And you see on this main corner, kind of front and center there, that's so basically where this image is taken is you're at Mike and Ann's. Basically, you're sitting having a drink, looking back across the street at the project. And that main corner right there is just yearning for something. So if you go to the next image, please. And one more. And so this is kind of what we're proposing. And we when we met with Andrew Chung, the owner of the property, a couple of weeks ago, we with his team and Tim, Mike, and I all met. We talked about a lot of different options. So that, how do you go about taking this public art and making it compelling and making it interesting, making it an installation that people will enjoy. And you can certainly do the sort of predetermined or sort of, where you just put it in a garden, build a pylon or something like that that's separate from the building. What I love about what Tim's proposing here is that he's taking the architecture and working with the rhythm and the patterns of the building and just taking it to the next level. So we're very excited. Go just back that one piece. Let me read this quick statement because Tim's not here tonight. So I'll take my glasses off. So this is a statement from Tim. And he says, I came to South Pasadena in 1997 to attend Art Center College of Design and have lived in the same house in the Mission Meridian district ever since. To think that I would have an opportunity to be working on my 4th public glass art project in this city 25 years later is a real dream. I have watched this city and in particular the Mission Street corner blossom in my time here in South Pass. I could not be more excited about creating a landmark art piece for the city in this area. During a meeting with Andrew Chung, which I spoke of a few weeks back, he gave me a simple directive: make a masterpiece that people will come to see and South Pasadena will be proud to have. We are in a fortunate position to have this art piece as a consideration at the beginning of the overall construction process. This will allow time to develop different design ideas, create glass samples, and come to a thoughtful decision on the ultimate design and techniques that will be employed. The goal is to make a unique art piece that will not only be beautiful and inspiring, but will also be true to the spirit of the architecture, the locale, and the city in general. A specific detailed schedule of stages and milestones is upcoming, but in general, it will be the following. Stage 1, design and samples. Thumbnails, sketches, renderings will dialogue back and forth with glass samples and coming up with a design and technique. Lighting, safety, and testing will also be considered at this stage. Stage 2 will be fabrication. With final sizes, framing, and lighting decided upon, glass fabrication will take place at my South Pass studio. Panels will be made to size and stored in my studio until final installation. Stage 3, installation. Details still to be developed. So that's basically our presentation. I am here basically kind of talking about my passion for our project for this building and how excited we are to have Tim involved. If you have questions for Tim, I know that he can help answer any questions you might have at this time.
Is Mr. Carey on Zoom? Is he with us?
Yes, Mr. Carey's on Zoom.
And he's with us now? Yes. Okay, great. I'm sure there are a lot of questions for either Mr. Bond or Mr. Carey. Do any of the commissioners have questions they'd like to ask? I, for one, will start out since no one else seems to be speaking up. I would love to know a little bit more about the specifics of the art. And I'm wondering, and I realize there probably is not a layout or a design yet, or we would probably have seen it. But I'm wondering if maybe Mr. Carey can talk us through a little bit about, is it going to be figurative? Is it going to be abstraction? What is it going to be exactly? Could somebody tell us a little bit more about the specific art?
Yeah. Hi everybody. Can you all hear me?
Hey,
It's good to see you all. Sorry, I'm gonna have to join from home with my face is like on fire with the cold right now, but I'll be okay. So thanks for Dwight putting that really nice presentation together. To answer your question, Jeff, we're still kind of figuring it out. That sketch that you see that's in the presentation was sort of an initial rendering. I have a sort of aesthetic that I'm working with right now in my artwork that involves using opaque glass and transparent glass and doing this sort of abstract figuration, which is kind of where my language as an artist lies, between figurative and abstraction. Having said that, I think any commission piece needs to be fleshed out over time with the people that are going to be enjoying it, and with some research and an understanding of what we're doing and what the ultimate goal is. So, I don't want to be presumptuous and think I have an idea right now that is the right idea. That sketch came out of some words that came to mind when I think of this town, and when having been here 25 years, which is, I think the words that came to my mind are growth, family, diversity, creativity, things like that. And so I always think of my work in terms of figuration and how the figure relates to a feeling. And so that image was my initial thought of what does it look like if it fits a kind of almost like a totem of figures in action. I think of people in South Pass as active people. And so I want to create something, whatever it is, that's inspiring and beautiful to look at, but also, represents the city and what we're about. And I talked to Mr. Churng about his family having been brought up here, and we all kind of get it in terms of what's been going on here the last 25, 30 years, and somehow capturing that. And that's my goal, but I want to go through the process. I want to try different designs, different concepts. Who knows, we might end up right back where we started, but I do think it's important to go through the process of trying things out, and then also allowing the technique of glass fusing to speak back into the design process and make some samples and see what comes out of the kiln, and then kind of respond to that. And like I said in the paragraph there, it's great we have time to do this, and that's the best way to do it, is to go through this thing very systematically with samples, making sure we design something that's safe, that it's engineered properly, the lighting is done right, maintenance is not going to be an issue. And so that's kind of the plan. It's so early right now that I'm very open to ideas, and I'm open to people visiting my studio and being part of the process. Like I said, I've done a few things here in South Pass over the last just couple years, from the Ray Bradbury piece to the sculpture. I think that was the first meeting of this Public Art Commission, which was about 2.5, 3 years ago, right before COVID, I think. I remember that, and I remember it because I remember seeing Chris sitting outside on her porch on Zoom. it rang a bell. But that project is done, and it's installed, and it's great, and I was happy to be part of that. And then I did a mural for the school, for Arroyo Vista, a glass mural outside. And this is an amazing, big leap forward in terms of what I think can be a statement in that space. It's not it's the image in glass is a very new thing. Narcissus, my mentor, has been working with it for 30 years, but it's not something that's really caught on in a way that's become widespread, except for just in the past few years with Judson Studios and with my work. And I think this is just a great opportunity to do something first of its kind right there, you know, and I'm excited about it, and I'm grateful that Dwight came to me, and you know, that we're going down this road. But you know, I'm happy to hear thoughts and other questions.
Steve, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, you know, thank you, Mr. Carey, for you know, trying to describe what is still at a very raw stage. You know, we have reviewed your work before, and I believe it was actually at least the first time that I was aware of it was for the South Pasadena Library with the Bradbury piece that you did. And so, you know, I do love the fact that we are pushing the idea of new materials that aren't necessarily commonly used, at least in this, you know, contemporary times. So I'm really excited to see some sort of glass piece. But even though it's kind of still very at the beginning stages, I'm reading your kind of your statement on this piece. You do say that your ultimate goal is to create a masterpiece. And so in my mind, I know this is still the beginning and you're still going to get input from the community, but like, how do you define what a masterpiece is? And what is a masterpiece for you?
Good question. Yeah, by the way, those are Mr. Churn's words.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry. My apologies.
He said, if we're going to do this, you know, we might as well make it a masterpiece.
Okay.
And, you know, as an artist, you know, there's nothing better to hear from somebody who's the commissioner than to say, you know, do your thing, versus this is exactly what I want you to do. I want to be a portrait of me and my wife here, and I want you to have some trees and some, like he just said, I see your work, I like your work, and I believe in what you're doing, and you know, make a masterpiece. So for me, what does that mean? I think it means just putting everything you have into something, and leaving no stone unturned, and doing your best work. And you know, that's going to be different for everybody. But I love artwork that draws people up close and that makes them step back and kind of go back and forth. This idea of making an artifact that will last a long, long time, that people can have memories surrounding, people will come to and wonder how it was done. People can find me 2 blocks away and come knock on my door. To me, a masterpiece is something that we can all be proud of. And, you know, I'm never always happy with what I do. I'm always thinking of the next thing. So maybe after this is done, I'll say a masterpiece is going to be the next one. But I love the challenge. You know, I loved it when we did the resurrection window in Kansas. It's sort of something I thrive on, doing things that are new and taking chances. And so I'm up for the challenge.
Thanks, Mr. Carey. And if I could just, Commissioner Burke, if I could just do one follow-up quick question.
Go ahead.
You know, looking at, I do know there was discussion about backlit glass pieces, and looking at the rendering, of course, this is still preliminary stages, but do you plan, is this planned to be backlit? And then if so, like, what are the logistics? Who's paying for the electricity? Will they be shut off at a certain time? Could it be a public nuisance in terms of light, too much light bleed? And so those are some of the questions that I kind of like, the practical questions that might not be resolved or even thought about yet, but that's like, is this planned to be backlit too?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, I've been working with backlighting for 10 years now. I started using LEDs when they first came out, and little wires and hooking them together. So I'm big into LEDs. There's no product better than them in terms of longevity and you know, lack of heat and just overall safety and longevity. You get 80,000 hours out of an LED, and you know, I did the math on that. That's 30 years, 8 hours a day or something like that. So that's a good thing. We have LED panels now that are very thin profile that can be switched out with just plug and put them in, take them out. The trick is going to be with the engineering and the design of the frame so that we can get in and out of it in terms of having to replace a panel. So that's something that we'll make sure that, you know, that's part of the plan is how do we get the LED panel out if necessary down the line. But, you know, the other thing about the light pollution is LEDs are dimmable down to the, you know, 1/100th of a degree. So I think the ideal thing will be to have it on a control that, you know, during the day is probably at full power, so you see it, and then at night when it's dark outside, you lower it to about, you know, 40 or 50% dimmability. So that's something that we're going to work on. I've done a lot with it, and you know, I consider that really important, because you can make a masterpiece, but if you don't light it well, it's not a masterpiece anymore. Glass is alive; it's transparent. You see through it, and you've got to have, it's got to be kind of solidified by its surroundings, what's lighting behind it and what's in front of it and what's around it, because it's it's alive and it's part of the atmosphere. So we will consider that.
Thank you.
Chris, I see your hand up, but before we go to there, let me just follow up on one thing that Stephen said. And Matt, this is addressed for you, I think. We bring up the idea of light pollution. I don't want to make this process any more difficult for the applicants than it has to be, but is this something that should get run past Public Works?
Actually, it will be reviewed more by planning and building department. So planning will look at the light intensity, and so building department will look at the electricity, like the conduit, electrical permits, and the safety. So it's more from planning and building. So you won't involve with Public Works. So planning basically will look at light intensity. So
the
if-
building department will actually look at whether or not there's too much light coming out, because I know, for instance, you have to put, what are they called, splash guards or something on lights that could, you have to put some sort of filter on lights to keep them from glaring out parking lots. I guess building department, I guess my question is building department going to look at this with a view of the light in mind?
but both planning and building. So planning will look at more from intensity, the aesthetic perspective, and building safety more looking for the safety, electrical conduit, and make sure they're connect properly, safely. But planning will look at light intensity and also the light intensity level, especially from public right away.
All right, so one way or another, this commission doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
No.
Very good. Chris.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for all the questions and the great presentation. I'm gonna put my hand down. I have a question, I guess, about community input. It sounded like there was a sort of amorphous idea of you know, kind of feedback from the community. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how you might go about this, or how much of a part of your process the community input will be.
Well, that's always a consideration with public art, is you want to make sure people are involved who are going to be the ones living with it. And it's a question of how you do that, whether it's actually making them part of the process, or, you know, because that's been done before. People actually get their hands in there and are working on things, and you give people an opportunity to work with the material, or you educate them. I think education is a big one. You know, we've done a lot in this city with glass, with Bullseye Glass and Judson Studios. And, you know, I kind of think of South Pass as like the capital of glass in California, which is awesome because we're doing so much cool stuff. So I think education is an important part of it. And when I did the mural at the school, I had the kids come by and work with me, and I taught them how to use glass. So I think engaging the community that way would be my preference, versus having them actually work on the piece. But in terms of what people think of the design and the artwork, I'm happy to you know, make samples and present them publicly, get feedback from people, and hear ideas for the types of things that they think, words or phrases or things that represent the town, the history of the town, the history of the building itself. I know there's kind of a very rich history of that space. So I think throwing all this stuff into the pot and being open to it, I'm very much, you know, open to that.
Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Commissioner?
thank you. I know it's, as you know, as Steve said, it's early in the process, but I just wanted to know where your head was with all of that. So thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I do think we'll get specific about it, because it's one thing just to say all that, it's another thing we need to be making sure that that's the focus. So I am glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Carey. Thanks for this proposal. It's beautiful and it's exciting. Thanks for addressing your thoughts about diversity. I know this is something that we're really interested in here in South Pasadena. And our commission is, very interested in that. We've been talking about it amongst ourselves, and I know you've done several works.
But
here.
not in any way that would violate a Brown Act issue, but
No,
go on.
publicly, absolutely, yes, within our commission. So I know that you do scale. That's one of your fortes, and I was really interested in the proposal here. I think it looks really interesting. It's quite large as you propose it, and I'm wondering if you could speak to scale a little bit, what the vision is, and also I think also interesting, it's a corner piece. At this point, at least, and is the kind of concept that it would be visible kind of from the front and from the side, or if you could speak to that or the scale of it a bit.
Yeah, like Dwight said, looking at that building and spending some time, he brought the model over to my house that he made, which was really helpful. That corner was just sort of leaping out at me and speaking to me, and he had made some suggestions about how we could wrap it around sort of unevenly. And I thought that was really helpful. I've always liked the idea of a corner for some reason, especially in light. It just draws people's attention, and ideally not in a way that's obnoxious or dangerous for drivers or blinding people, which it won't be. You have to sort of think of it like a sign, like an H&M store sign or something. That sort of light intensity. But yeah, something that as people are walking down Mission, they can stop and walk up to. Or if they're coming up Fairview from the library, they see the corner of it and they want to turn the corner and see the rest of it. So, and then like Dwight said, you're sitting at Mike and Ann's, and it's just a beautiful feature. That's my main thing as an artist, is to make things that are beautiful. Number one, even before concept and story, to me is beauty. And my favorite art has always been something that I want to look up close to it. I want to touch it. I want to know how it's made. And so I want to create that intrigue and that interest when people walk by. What is this? This is glass? How was this done? Okay, I'll look this guy up and I'll learn about glass. Oh, there's all these other projects. Oh, they have the first fused glass studio in the world is in South Pass. Like, I want something that brings people's attention to glass, because I know that this is going further and further. And for us to have the ability to do something here in town, I think that corner is beautiful. Not to mention it's in that sort of spot between Fairview and Fremont that's kind of been a dead zone for a while. And we used to go there all the time when my kids were little, go to La Fiesta Grande and Amy's Playground. I have very fond memories of that, but I think it's going to be alive now, just like the rest of that area is. So, I'm sort of one of those people who thinks about going big and doing something exciting, but also appropriate. And so in terms of the scale of the figures, like I said, I'm a figurative artist. I would want it to make sense. You don't want to have something too big. I think of the figures that are in that design that I have now as, what are they doing? Are they athletes? Are they musicians? Are they walking? Are they running? Are they together? They're overlapping. They're growing. They look like brush strokes from a distance, but when you get up close, you might see hands and faces and smiles. Just the variety of colors. And not browns and tans and flesh, but like reds and greens and this sort of vibrant, very sort of joyful piece. That's how I see it on that corner.
If I can just say, the scale that we're talking about is basically from where Matt's standing up to the bottom of that, where the two can lights are. That's the height. And it's going to be basically on the Mission side, it'll be about 7 feet wide by 18 feet high. Then it wraps the corner, currently, it wraps the corner about 5 feet. So just give me a sense for how
That's
how
helpful
large
to
it is.
me as a visual person.
Do we
just-
have any other questions, or are there any other comments that?
The only thing I just wanted to kind of update that you all, we're really close to selecting a contractor. That's kind of what Mike has been working so hard on. And we're really close to getting a permit. So we're close to starting construction. And one of the things I was thinking as Tim was talking, and this kind of concept of bringing in the community in some sort of dialogue is, you know, we're renovating and repurposing the Amy's Play, the historic building. And we're doing that in concert with the new project that's going to wrap around it. And hopefully the reconstruction and renovation of Amy's Playground, that historic building, will happen sooner than the other part of the building. So the building itself can serve as like a gallery. And if we wanted to have the community over, have you all over, Tim literally puts his art pieces in a wagon and walks them over. That might be a good place to just make a connection with the community, show them what's the progress is on a project, and talk about the public art.
Great. Any other questions, or is there anything else to say? Okay, thank you all very much for being here, for making the presentation. Commissioners, I think it's time for us to talk amongst ourselves. Let me just start by saying that I think this sounds like a great project. I love the idea of the size of the art and the location and the method in which it's going to be displayed. I am still a little bit questioning the actual art itself. Much as I believe in Tim Carey's bona fides as an artist and his resume and all of that, I think that it would be remiss for us to give a blanket approval to something that we actually haven't seen. On the one hand, I have to say, I know that there is no ordinance in South Pasadena that prohibits a property owner from putting up a piece of art and displaying it so long as it is not objectionable to the larger community. However, we have been put here by City Council as a way of saying, yes, I believe that these art projects are appropriate. So I guess this is a question to my fellow commissioners. Is this something that we want to approve tonight without having seen the art and just go on the words of the artist and the developer? I don't want to make it more difficult for them, but do we want to have another proposal a little bit further down the line when we have something more concrete to look at? Steve, I see your hands up. What do you think?
Thank you, Commissioner Berg. I have the same concerns, but also I believe that this, to decide now on such a major project without kind of more information, I think we're rushing into this, and we have so many other kind of, I think, urgent needs that need to be resolved even before we approve this, because we lack certain policies, and to be honest, I don't even know what the criteria would be for us to evaluate this. Are we evaluating it on the artwork being proposed? And if that's the case, definitely we need to postpone this vote. Or are we just evaluating it on the artist that is chosen to do the work and having faith in that? And I do want to say, Mr. Carey, I'm really interested in this project. And I agree with Commissioner Burke that we don't want to create more bureaucracy. To be honest, I'm fed up with bureaucracy in my daily life, and I don't want to create any more here. But I don't think we have enough information to actually recommend and approve the proposed art piece right now.
Well said. On that note, let me go back to Matt for a second. Staff liaison, how does this affect their process or their project? If we were to give, let's say we were to give a conditional approval tonight and then need to see a little bit more information further down the line, is that going to in any way impede their development progress?
Thank you, Chair. What staff can suggest is the commission can look at this if the commission decides to give some type of conceptual preliminary approval, for example, for the concept, for the artist, for the location, for the size, and for the corner piece. And you can consider as a conceptual approval. And what staff can suggest to do is form a subcommittee, kind of keep track the progress with the artist and also the developer himself, and come back to this body to get a full commission approval, figure out a day that mutually could agree on for the final piece, the exact detail that the commission would like to have, I think staff can sort out something kind of mutually agreeable for among all parties. So
So you're saying a conceptual but not a final approval?
if the commission, the direction of commissions would like to see a detail, but also want to give the developer a time, because the construction timing will be like 2 years. So of course, during all this COVID and also supply chain issues, that 2 years may not. So, and I notice mayor's here.
Oh, I see the mayor standing up when I'm
With a
wondering.
cell
if he
phone?
wants to say anything. Just charging your phone, eh? I see.
So
Far
there's
be it for me to call out
option.
the mayor. Go ahead.
So there's option out there that if commissioner want to kind of approve the conceptual approval, but still have the final say at the end to find out the exact details. But I think the idea of a subcommittee is that a subcommittee with a 2 commissioner can keep track of the progress. So when the developer bring the final piece in front of commission, they won't be too far from.
I hear what you're saying. So what you're saying is that we could give a conceptual approval tonight, form a subcommittee and follow along with our progress and at some point give a final approval? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. I have to say, my personal opinion is subcommittees are a pain. And I really would like to avoid that if we can. I think it would be better to bring the matter back in front of the whole commission and let us have another look at it. At this point, I'm guessing, as you say, it's about a 2-year timeline. So, you know, if Tim wants to come back in a few months and you've got maybe some tests or some sketches or something, I think that would be an appropriate way to move. You think?
I do.
All right. I think now I just want to make sure, what are we hoping to get tonight?
Staff and is requesting the commission to review this project and if possible, provide approval. But if the direction of the commission is to require more information, then we need the applicant, the project team need to go back to the drawing board to provide details. But I think it's appropriate for kind of reopen the public hearing so the applicant team can weigh in on it, we'll have a kind of dialogue conversation.
Okay, well, let's reopen the public portion of the comment. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'm Mike Ashoni. I'm the project manager on the project, and I greatly appreciate your time and appreciate everything you do here. This is great. I think just my only comment would be we're about a month out from getting permits, and this is a condition of approval to provide the art piece in order for planning to issue our final approval. So obviously, it's a very expensive art piece, you know, $150,000. So we are 100% in agreement that we would love it to evolve with you. It's going to take, as Tim mentioned, about a year and a half to construct. But our intention, what we would love to be able to achieve tonight is to be able to give us the clearance so we're able to move forward and obtain our building permit while we continue to work with you. So we're happy to accept a condition for a subcommittee or to come back and share further with you. As Tim mentioned, he's happy to bring you into a studio. We've all visited. It's a beautiful studio. It would be really beneficial to be able to at least clear obtain this clearance so that we can move forward and obtain our building permit. As you know, construction costs continue to go up. So
Sure.
We're worried about the construction costs and increased labor costs. So that would be from an applicant side, that would be something that we would greatly
I
appreciate
hear
if that's
exactly what
possible.
you're saying. No, I do hear what you're saying, and I want you to know that I personally, and I'm sure every member of this commission, we are on your side and we want to see this thing get developed and we want to see it get built and we do not want to hinder your progress. We absolutely do not. So I am sure that there is a way that should we want to give conditional approval of some sort, what do we call it? Conceptual approval?
Conceptual approval, but with a condition asking to be back 6 months or.
And that will not in any way impede them from getting a building permit or getting through plan check or any of that, right?
That's correct.
All right, but it does mean that you guys will have to come back in front of this commission again for final before you can get a final CO.
Well, we're in full agreement. We could accept that.
All right, so back to the commissioners then. What do you guys think? Would anybody like to make make a motion to give conceptual and preliminary approval to this project so they can move on? I see Commissioner Kuramitsu makes
Yes.
makes that proposal. Is there a
Mm.
second?
I will second it.
Second. Yes, Matt.
Mr. Chair and the Commission, I think it's imperative to impose the date, or for example, the project shall be come back in 6 months, or so we have a specific date for the staff as well for the developer to everybody on the same page.
So do we need that date specifically for the convenience of the staff? Or why do we need that?
I think for the clearance that at least the project team knows the timeline, they need to bring this item back to this commission to get a final approval.
No, I hear what you're saying. You know, we could absolutely do that. By the same token, they cannot open the doors with a final certificate of occupancy until we give final approval. So they can come back in 2 months, they can come back in 2 years. I don't really care, but they can't get final certificate of occupancy till we give them approval. So I'm not sure, do we need that date, or can we just leave it to them to, when they have their ducks in a row, to come back to you and get on the agenda for the next meeting?
It's up to the commissioner.
Unless you guys have an opinion otherwise, I would say we do that. Just let them work at their own speed and come back to us when they're ready. But just remember, and I see that Tim is gone, but you need to come back to us with enough opportunity to make a change if somebody gets a wild hair. I'm just saying. Okay, you don't want to be in a position where it's like, oh, we've already done it. So there we go. All right, there is a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Congratulations, you guys can keep moving. But we will want to see you again. Excellent. All right, that concludes that matter. And it looks like now the next discussion action item is the annual commission report. Matt, can you tell us about that?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the commission. The item that this particular item is to present the 2020 annual commission report. As Commissioner aware, you received an email from our city clerk office regarding the annual commissioner congress to be scheduled on Wednesday, June 22nd. And the purpose of commissioner congress is for each commission or board in the city to provide opportunity for council to receive a year-end report, for example, the year 2021, from each commissioner on the accomplishment of 2021, as well as a work plan going to the next fiscal year, 2022 to 2023. And the purpose of the item is for the commission to review the draft accomplishment as well as a work plan for the next fiscal years. And the reason staff only limited 3 because we city clerk instruct staff to itemize 3 accomplishment as well as 3 work plans for each commission or board. And staff definitely understand that the commission has done more than three items this past year, but staff only identified 3. So the purpose is for commissioner to kind of review the draft, provide comments to staff, and as well make any changes if you see necessary. Thank you.
Okay, have members of the commission, have you had a chance to look through the proposed fiscal year 22-23 work plan? You guys look through that? It is here in our packet. And I see we have 3 tasks. Let me ask, before we dive into this, I see the mayor is right here in the audience, and I'm wondering, we need a 5th commissioner. Did you have anyone in mind to appoint? Are you, okay, so that was my next question. Are you looking for recommendations from commissioners? All right, so we will need a 5th commissioner. If anybody knows of a South Pasadena resident who would be appropriate, I think Mayor would like to hear from you. Because we do want to get a 5th person on here. As far as the work plan goes, Matt, where did you get this? Did you just come up with this?
Staff look at the previous year, which is the year 2020,
Okay,
look at what the year 2020 work plan, as well as staff totally understand that staff wasn't here. Most of the staff just joined this agency back in December, so staff wasn't involved in previous meetings. So staff tried to do the much due diligence, background research, reading the agenda, the staff reports, while watch a lot of videos, try to come up with the work plan. But if the commissioner identify that there should be a different set of work plans, staff definitely is interested to know to update it if necessary.
okay. I'm just wondering, I'm looking at item 1, and it says, if I'm not mistaken, task 2A. You'll have to explain this to me. Recommend permit software and funding for building and planning to track permits online and stream approval process. Is that for us?
Actually, the work plan is every commission needs to come out with a work plan in line, kind of in align with city's strategic plan, which is in your attachment 2.
Yeah, no, I see that. I mean, I'm
So,
just wondering where, so item 1, is that for Public Arts Commission?
What staff is trying to do is looking at the city council strategic plan and try to identify what's the closest related goal for the city council, as well as the commission, to kind of find the correlation or the relationship.
I see. So basically, we're supposed to glom onto the tasks that the city has assigned for itself as which ones would be most appropriate for us to help with.
We're in the process of getting a land management system, which kind of identify, for example, you have an address, you have all the permit associated with the address. By using that tool, we can identify the public RPs or even the approved public RPs with that associated land management tool. So going in the future, it'd be easier for staff or the commissioner, even for the consultant, to identify, for example, this address has this building permit, but also has an approved public art. So going forward, it'd be easier to identify, to protect any public art. Just for example, if it will have a new homeowner coming in, he or she doesn't know that the public art that was approved by this commission and should be protected. But I think it's easier kind of for tracking purposes going.
Okay. All right. So basically, the 3 tasks that
Excuse
I
me,
see.
Chair.
Yes.
Hi, Angelica Frausto-Lupo, Director of Community Development.
Hello there.
I'd like to also offer just a little more background information. I think Matt's done a good job of trying to explain that this work plan, it was developed with the strategic plan in mind. And so just to offer a little more background, previously, it appears that the boards and commissions here in South Pasadena did their work plans and accomplishments either in December or January of, in line with the calendar year. But the city's plan moving forward, starting with now this new fiscal year 22-23, is to actually have the boards and commissions develop their accomplishments and work plans at the end of the fiscal year. And that way we start the new fiscal year in July, and that it's aligned with the city's strategic plan. So rather than having the boards and commissions develop their work plans separate from the city's overall strategic plans, admin believed it would be best to align the efforts. Really, one of the main reasons is that, as you all probably know, we are a small but mighty team within the city organization, and having staff to work on the strategic plan for city council and accomplish those goals, as well as separate and sometimes completely different goals for the commissions and boards, really makes it very time consuming for staff. So we thought aligning those would be just a much more effective process. And so as Matt explained, that what we tried to do is really fit in, come up with some work plan that falls within the existing parameters, as was, our directive. So while it seems odd that task 2A, technology upgrade, does not seem to fit within public art. We really thought, well, let's see what we can do and get creative. But frankly, coordinating and with the electronic permitting system and taking some sort of inventory of public art may actually be a quite useful tool. So, which is why we included it.
Thank you. I think that helped to explain it a little bit more lucidly. And I have to say, on just speaking for myself, I know that I would very much like to know what the city is thinking of in terms of software that could help us in our mission. And I am very much heartened to think that city staff would like our input. So there you go. So the three things then that we have here that look like they fit within the system are to coordinate with city staff on exploring the opportunity to include public art on commercial projects, public art resources inventory on the new electronic permitting and land management system. And I know that prior to this, Margaret had a spreadsheet or something, didn't she? What was our inventory on? It was a spreadsheet, wasn't it? I think it was. By the way, you guys can't see me, but I'm looking, Chris and Steve, I'm looking at you on the screen. And so you
Yeah.
can look back at me and see.
No, it was a spreadsheet. I don't know if it was like it was some sort of a Excel type spreadsheet
Yeah.
where we all were, kind of asked to input our, the resources, arts resources around town, whether they're people or what have you.
Okay.
Yes. So that exists somewhere.
All right. So there is that, but we can work with the new software as the city gets it. God bless us all. I think that's great. Number 2, I see review best practices regarding artist-friendly policies, including establishing terms and commissions of commissioning art and accepting art donations. Damn it, I love that. I think that is an excellent idea. I don't know what you guys think, but there you are. There's my impartiality going right out the window. But Commissioner Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that was inserted into it, task 2B and reviewing best practices. I think this is core to what we need to do and resolve before we make any decisions, and including, the development that we just talked about. And so I think we need to put a priority on resolving that even before we can move with, okaying this development, which brings me to some other issues of I remember sitting in on some of the anti-racist or anti-bias club's mural, and the city deferred to us, saying they couldn't really approve it until they have an arts policy that we were supposed to create. And so for me, that mural is if there's any rush for anything, we need to get this policy in place for that mural to happen. And I would like to also include in this kind of work plan that this policy would be resolved within this year and created, but also then finally approving the BLM mural. And I think that needs to happen even before we approve anything else, since it's been on our table for at least a year. And so that's just my comment about number 2 and agreeing with number 2.
I hear you, but let me just correct one thing. I think that we have done as regards both the BLM mural and the best practices that we have forwarded. I think we have done all we can. And right now it is sitting in the hands of city attorney and city council, because we can only recommend things to the council. We cannot enact things ourselves. We have already recommended these things. I have spoken with city attorney about best practices. And as you recall, however many months ago it was, he came back and said, well, these things need to be an ordinance and it needs to be actionable. And we're looking for are just best intentions, something that we can put down and say, yes, we are an artist-friendly city. So I think we want to try to bring that again to pass the city attorney to council. And then I think that takes us, Steve, what you were talking about with the mural, that takes us right to number 3. Review the public art policy to govern the development of public art in the city, to address art, placement of art, and duration of display, including goals and guidelines and the types of public art that may be displayed throughout the city. Additionally, review criteria to ensure high quality public art is developed through the public art program. I am not actually aware that this city has yet a public art policy. I do not believe that we do we? No. And so we're looking to the Public Arts Commission to come up with one, because in theory, that is why City Council pushed away the matter of the BLM mural. Is that right? I think it's right. So we need to get a public, I agree with you, Commissioner Wong, 100%. We need to move on getting a public art policy together and back to City Council so that they will then have a basis on which to make a final decision on the BLM mural. So these are the three items. It appears that city staff is recommending that we accept as our 22-23 work plan. Is there additional discussion?
Well, I just want to, say my support that we definitely need to move forward and fine tune and develop a public art policy. And I think our committee is a great place to start. I think that's kind of very much in need, as evidenced by the Anti-Bias Club mural. I mean, and it very much dovetails with our earlier interest in creating a best practices. We've done the best that we can. And I think we just need to continue to advocate to the council to adopt the recommendations that we put forward. And if we need to, work with the city attorney more, we're here willing and able to do that.
Well said. Well said, exactly that. Before we take a vote on this, Matt, again, let me go back to you. The public art policy, when Margaret was here last, I know that she was involved with trying to cobble together an art policy that was borrowed from other cities. Do we currently have that, and where are we with that? Does staff have that?
It is my understanding that Margaret did some research, and as far as the status of actual our own public policy, I don't think
We don't have one.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have it.
one. All right, let me ask you this. I know city staff is stretched right now. I get that. I mean, you see a whole bunch of, everybody's complaining about everything, all right? So, and I do not want to make your load heavier or your situation worse. So in order to get this public art policy, is this something that staff thinks that they have to do and present to the commission to approve? Or is it something that commissioners could do and give it to city staff? How could we work this?
Hi, good evening again. Thank you for the question. So, and as Matt stated, we do not have a policy yet. Margaret had done some preliminary research, researching other cities' policies, but frankly, just it didn't get very far. She left mid-March. We do have it as one of your work plan items because we were directed by City Council earlier this year to develop the policy. We would be happy, staff would be happy to agendize the item to strategize with the Public Art Commission to get some feedback from you and to do this together. The reason it's listed here as review the public art policy is because City Council specifically directed staff to develop the policy, which is, we said, okay, we'll develop the policy, we'll come back to the commission to review. But again, we are happy to agendize the item and we can brainstorm together and move it forward that way.
Okay, I mean, I hear that, and that is certainly a good faith gesture. It sounds very time intensive. This sounds like something that we agendize and then we have a meeting and then we talk and then we go back and then we work. And it sounds like the year could run out before we actually have anything together. I appreciate Commissioner Wong's comment that we need to, this does have a priority with us because we want to get back to council with something. Angelica, what can we do to make this happen more expeditiously? How can we help?
Yeah, the main issue, frankly, is that we are understaffed. And as Matt mentioned, the majority of the department, particularly the planning division, is all new, with the exception of one part-time person who's been here, quite a few years. otherwise, it's a new staff. With Margaret leaving in March, it left a huge gap in the department. We lost quite a bit of the institutional knowledge. She was the liaison to this commission specifically. So again, the issue is just all the major projects going on and the lack of staff. If any of the commissioners would be interested in just sending information to Matt and myself, and, as we start to, put it all together. But frankly, since Margaret left, we have not been able to look at it.
All right, and I get that. I have to say I resisted the attempt to form a subcommittee when we were talking about this other project. But this item sounds like something that we could use a subcommittee. We could use a couple of dedicated, knowledgeable commissioners to come up with some best practices that maybe other cities have used. Are there any commissioners that would like to serve on such a subcommittee? And I'm staring right at you on the screen, even though you can't see me. I'm staring right at both of you and you. Is there any commissioners that would like to serve on a subcommittee to help produce a public arts policy for the city? Commissioner Wong, what are you thinking about this?
I am thinking that my hand was up and I lowered it really quick before you mistook that as a volunteer.
Apparently not fast enough.
I'm interested in it. I'm just really worried about my time. I have interests, but I would like someone else to maybe step up who does have the time. But if and only if no one else does, I might be willing to step up.
Well, that's a wholehearted sort of a way of going about it. I love that. Commissioner Andres.
Yes, I am very interested in this topic, and I would be happy to be a member of a subcommittee.
Outstanding. Commissioner Kurimitsu, would you be interested in serving on such a subcommittee?
I am interested, again, worried about time, but, and I would be happy to contribute in some way with partners, partner or partners, maybe. Can a subcommittee have?
So
three
is that a
people?
yes that I'm hearing, or what is that exactly? It sounds like a yes. I would say that's a yes.
I will help. Yes, I will help.
All right. I tell you what, why don't we do this? I believe if we have a public arts policy subcommittee composed of Commissioners Andres and Kurimitsu, that could get together, and I'd be happy to be involved too. I mean, I
Okay.
think this is something we could just do on the phone. More likely, it's something that we can do via email.
Right.
Just start picking pieces from other cities, the same way the staff was going to do it. Put some things together, try to get a coherent body of work together and present it to city staff. And then at that point, maybe we can go through it together. Is that acceptable to you?
That would be fine, Chair. I just want to mention that actually the item that we're discussing right now is the work plan.
Yeah, I know that. We were discussing.
and,
the work. Wait,
um,
did we approve the work plan or did we not vote? on it?
We did not.
We did not vote on it. Well, I am mistaken. We were talking about subcommittees and I was getting ahead of myself. Is there a my brain is losing it. When you go to make a
Motion.
thank you. Is there such a, do we have something do people want to approve the work plan as presented by staff? Would somebody like to make a proposal?
I would propose approving it.
Good. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Very good. Okay, we got that done. Let's get back to our subcommittee. So we have our two subcommittee members that have volunteered to do this. I will also help out. Commissioner Wong, I bet you would even help out in a pinch if you can find something. But if this subcommittee can meet and have something by our next meeting, I think that would be great.
In August.
Well, we're going to talk about when our next meeting is, but sometime soon. This is a subcommittee that we should vote to approve. Commissioners Kuramitsu and Andres as a subcommittee to review the public arts policy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Again, unanimous. Okay. We have whipped through all of that. Going back to our agenda. City Council Liaison, Mr. Mayor. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding your meeting frequency during the year, there's a meeting tomorrow night at the council meeting, and they're considering a ordinance with the Community Services Commission and also the frequency of the Public Arts Commission meetings. So you may want to participate by public comment and let us know what your thoughts are.
Okay.
But there's a recommendation that you would meet quarterly, or let me try to find the ordinance. Use frequency quarterly or on an as-needed basis when you have projects come up and things like that.
Sure. So as needed, meaning if there's a project that needs
Right.
approval to keep going.
So if you want to just,
But the problem is those usually require, I mean, there's a certain noticing requirement, right?
Right.
I mean, realistically, it's like 3 weeks or so.
But I think Matt would have, the projects as they move forward, give you an update.
For agenda, regular meeting agenda will need to be noticed at least 72 hours prior.
Well, that's not too bad. All right.
So that's regarding that, Jeff, and then also just things going on in the city. I won't go, anyways, it's getting late, but just this 4th of July, as we talk about more diversity and inclusiveness in the city, we're going to add a lot to the program this year, not just the usual great well-oiled machine of the, the pancake breakfast, the parade, the activities at the park, and the fireworks, which are great. So I've been working with the community on that, but after my visit to Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia this past summer, we're going to do a project with Lisa and Jim Reynolds. We've been working on set up a subcommittee, working the last several months diligently, a meeting tomorrow, Thursday night. They're going to put on a performance. We worked with the high school to reserve the 700 seats at the high school for a free program. People can make donations as they come in. But it's going to be kind of performances, songs, poems, theatrical presentations about a diversity of America through the sense of revolution, kind of focusing on the revolution, other aspects too. So Jim and Lisa are going to pretty much do it. But it's a kind of a very diverse committee of members of the South Pasadena Preservation Foundation, others from the Festival of Balloons, but diverse group, different cultures. And Jim and Lisa are going to kind of tailor it after his show, or I think he said, I too am an American, about great performance he put on years ago. But it's We Too Are America, just the diversity of America. So it's going to probably be an hour and a half or so production. City's coordinating with them, and the council members have put in our discretionary funds to make it happen. And they're pretty much giving their time to the program, and we'll pay the actors and actresses. It'll be the day before 4th of July, Sunday night, July 3rd. And it's really going to be an incredible performance. So we've been working on that. And there's many other things going on with the city. The budget will be approved in the middle of June, if you're interested. We're doing a lot with we'll be one of the first cities in the San Gabriel Valley. We're coming close in July to roll out our mobile crisis outreach program. We're trying to get a van. The van will take a little while to get. We just successfully pushed the Council of Governments to pass, and they approved us, San Marino and Arcadia, on a pilot project for a year with a mobile crisis van of a licensed clinical social worker and a lived experience person in vehicles until we get the van. And I'm pushing staff to get an electric van. I'm working with the company in Colorado to get it. So we're pushing that. Many things going on over the city with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, the goal line construction going on time, on budget, out to Pomona, and hopefully if the governor finds 500 million, we'll get it to Claremont and Montclair. AQMD, we're doing a lot of projects in the city. We're about to submit a proposal to AQMD, the Mobile Source Air Pollution Reduction Committee, for $1 million grant to electrify our city hall facilities and be the first police department, hopefully in the US, to go electric. So all this will be coming together, hopefully to City Council in July. We're working with Edison on their Charge Ready program to provide the infrastructure for electrification of City Hall, fire, police, city, and also a project with Clean Power Alliance for solar at the lot, and a program with the Metropolitan Water District for stormwater capture as all part of this one project. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Communications, Commissioner Andres, let me begin with you.
have anything to communicate at this time.
Commissioner Wong? Nothing from you, Commissioner Kirimitsu? Nothing from you. Well, I have to say, first of all, that I am very happy to be meeting again because by golly, I have missed you guys. And it's been a long time. I think one thing that we should discuss before we adjourn is our meeting. Now, Mr. Mayor, you were just saying that the council is considering meeting times and that they're looking for input. All right, so do we have input? I heard, Steve, I heard you say a little earlier, and I kind of agree with you that maybe we should be meeting more frequently than quarterly. What are you thinking?
Yeah, if I could, I think I attended one of the meetings and, I definitely understand that, compared to other cities, South Pasadena has a lot larger and many more commissions. And it is really taxing on the city staff's time. And I do want to acknowledge and appreciate all the work that city council, the mayor, and all the city staff put into this. And so I completely understand why there's a need to cut down and limit some of that. But when I had first heard of this, I thought cutting down might have been instead of meeting every month, it would be meeting every other month. So like 6 times rather than 12 made sense to me for the work that we have to get done. I'm concerned that if we meet quarterly, that we might not be able to get that work done. But it is nice for me to hear that we can, as needed, create meetings. But I do understand Commissioner Burke has mentioned that it might be kind of harder logistically to kind of get those meetings going. So I do have concerns. I've expressed those concerns. But the one thing that I do like and hearing is that we could still meet as needed.
Well, it means that we will be called to meet when there are projects that need our approval. Other
Okay.
than that, I don't believe that we will be meeting additionally just to talk amongst ourselves. So I think that's going to be relegated to regularly scheduled meetings. Chris, did you have a comment about that?
Yeah, I mean, just, the sort of scope of work that we talked about in our plan for this year, it seems like it would require more than 4 meetings. So I am agreeing with Commissioner Wong. I don't know if there's a way to suggest that we, kind of keep a regular every other month
Yeah.
meeting schedule. Is that something we can?
So you're recommending every other month as well?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think that seems a reasonable compromise. And I don't know if, obviously the staff needs to, of course, have input and,
Sure.
all of that. But I don't know what the procedure or process would be to
Well, yeah, we'll get.
make that happen.
Annalee, did you have a thought?
Well, as a member of the subcommittee of the public arts policy, I think it makes a lot of sense to meet more regularly and, if possible, working with staff. I do understand that the summer can be harder
Yeah.
as well. I know it is for me. Throwing that out there as well. I mean, I would like to meet more if it would be possible.
Angelica, we are not trying to make your life miserable. Really, we are not.
We want to be
This
your
is
favorite
not-
committee.
We want it, really, we are the most fun commission, first of all. I want you to know that. We are. But beyond that, we're not trying to make life miserable, and we don't want to ask for something that city staff can't support. Is if we were to ask council that we would meet regularly every other month, would this pose a hardship, a real hardship for you?
I think to answer the question, to ask council to change the frequency now when I believe second hearing is tomorrow for adoption of the ordinance would be problematic. But what I could offer is that we meet quarterly, but the option to meet as needed really allows us that flexibility to meet every other month or to meet monthly. And all we would require is for the chair to communicate with staff or staff to communicate with the chair, and then the commission, should we want to schedule every month or every other month. I don't really see that problematic. Frankly, we meet with some of our other commissions. While it says monthly. When we have to have special meetings, we're accustomed to doing that already. So I don't see it as a problem.
Well, you don't see it as a problem, but you don't want to do it.
Well,
So
only
we'll keep it
because,
at 3 months rather than 2.
well, I think that we already have the flexibility. So it says quarterly or as needed. So it already allows us to meet more regularly.
Okay, so as needed then could mean that if chair decides we should really have a meeting and find out what the subcommittee has done, then I could just communicate with you and you guys could schedule a meeting?
Yes, we would do that.
All right. I mean, I realized I was part of the Chamber of Commerce Board,
Mhm.
went and did a field trip to wherever the hell it was, Glendora or Monrovia or somewhere. They have 2 public commissions in the whole city. I think we have what, 16 or 18 or some such crazy number. We're a very involved city and the residents here are very proud to be involved. Are we not? We are. So I'll tell you what, if it is going to be problematic then to try to change this at second reading, I suppose that we could go along with the quarterly schedule with the caveat that we could meet as necessary. Commissioners, how do you feel about that? Are you okay with that?
Could I make one
Ye-
more comment,
Yeah.
Commissioner Burke? I actually really wanted to postpone that vote, the tentative approval, conceptual approval of the development. And if it wasn't for knowing that we potentially will meet every quarter, I would have really pushed for postponing that. I felt rushed into that, but I didn't want to slow down the development. I guarantee you, though, if we postpone that vote, our next meeting would not be in August.
Yeah.
And so that's a clear example of how it's necessary to meet more regularly. So I don't feel pressured. Maybe you don't feel pressured to kind of act on a vote, knowing it could tie things up. And so that was one clear example of what just happened at the top of our meeting of why it would necessitate extra meetings. But hearing now that we could call our own meetings, I'm much more I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. Everybody else satisfied with that? All right, well, I guess it is the official position of our committee that we will be happy to meet regularly scheduled quarterly meetings with the ability to call special meetings as needed, as we consider that we need. Very good. Is there anything else for our next agenda or for our next meeting that anybody wants to recommend?
Chair, I did have a few updates.
Please.
I know we're running a little bit late here.
No, no.
I mean, we talked already about the public art policy, so I do
Oh,
want
you know
to
what?
thank you all for that. What I will say is that the next time we meet, we'll agendize it just to formalize it because we really shouldn't be making decisions on items that are not on the agenda. But but thank you for really, I appreciate the assistance here. We talked about the Commissioners Congress, June 22nd. You will be receiving an email shortly within the next probably week or so from the city clerk's office. They will be asking for RSVPs because the Commissioners Congress will include dinner and starts at 6 p.m. at the War Memorial Building. And
I'm sorry, what date was that?
June 22nd
I knew that. Yeah.
at 6 p.m.
Okay.
So please, we encourage you all to attend. And just a quick update on recruitments. We are very sorry to lose Margaret in mid-March. We are looking to fill her position. We're also looking to fill an assistant planner position. And through this budget process, I've requested additional help in the department, a senior management analyst for housing to help oversee the housing element implementation programs and the Caltrans surplus properties, and also just kind of other items within the department, such as assistance with budget and contract management, et cetera. The other position, full-time position that I requested is a counter technician. So currently in the department, we have 3 part-time positions, paid internships, and I've asked to merge those into one full-time counter tech because it's really difficult to manage intern positions, and particularly when they're interns still in school and we have to worry about their schedules. Having one full-time person just much more sense for the department and a better customer service overall. And let's see, the second draft of the housing element was released and it's been sent over to the state. We expect to receive a comment letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development by July 11th. And we have several projects that we're working on in the department. And I believe the project we heard tonight, Mission Bell, was the first project for the public art in Luffy. They are, proposing, as you heard, to have a public art on site, which is really great. And as Matt and I are, still fairly new, we will be looking at the ordinance and probably looking to see how we can make some adjustments to it. Having the Public Art Commission approve the project before their building permits, perhaps we'll be working with the developers more closely as they go through the entitlement process to ensure that their concept is more fully developed during the entitlement phase, rather than being in this position tonight just to accept a concept, because that's, it could get a little hairy, for lack of a better word. I just want to mention, I did hear that perhaps the BLM mural was going at the Pasadena City College. I have not confirmed that myself. I did hear about that today. So I'm going to look into that further, but just wanted to let the commission know. And that was all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and I apologize for nearly running right over your opportunity to speak. I didn't even miss you on the agenda there.
No worries. Matt, did you have any?
Have any of the other commissioners heard anything from the high school club about moving the mural outside the city? All right, well, thank you very much. If there is nothing else, is there anything else from any of the commissioners? Nope, I move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we will see you all scheduled for the 24th unless we meet early. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Aye.
Good night. Bye.
Good. All right, we're all set. So, I was supposed to talk.